Minister, I just want to ask what urgent actions your department is taking to address the huge infrastructural deficits in our ports, and particularly that of Rosslare Europort, and what level of funding your department will be providing to ports to prepare for the offshore renewable energy, and if you'd make a statement. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy Murphy. And as set out in the previous reply to Deputy Kenny, the Department continues to work with the State ports as they progress projects within their master plans in line with the National Development Plan objectives and National Ports Policy. The Tier 1 ports of Dublin, Cork and Shannon Foynes all undertook significant capital expenditure in 2022. On the 25th of April 2023, the Government announced a tender to significantly upgrade the facilities at Rosslare Europort. These upgrade works are necessary to provide permanent Brexit infrastructure at Rosslare Europort to ensure compliance with the EU customs, sanitary and phytosanitary and official food controls legislation, thereby protection for the EU single market. All of these developments must be financed by the companies themselves without recourse to the Exchequer. They can be financed from their own cash borrowings, EU grant funding or private sector involvement. Therefore, access to European TEN-T Connecting Europe facility or other grant funding is vitally important to the ports. My department assists the ports in the CEF application process. The Government is also committed to ensuring that our national commercial Irish ports are positive contributors to the ORE industry, and that Ireland meets the ambitious targets of 7 gigawatts of offshore wind, 2 gigawatts of which is specifically dedicated to green hydrogen by 2030. Supporting the development of ports infrastructure is a core objective of the National Offshore Wind Delivery Task Force, and the Department is working very closely with the Task Force in this regard. Under National Ports Policy, our state commercial ports operate as independent commercial bodies and does not provide for direct Exchequer funding. This policy has proven very effective in developing a highly competitive and responsive port sector, where ports have continually proven to be agile in responding to market needs and opportunities. However, the need to maximise financing opportunities for ports is also recognised. To that end, in addition to its support for ports as part of the CEF process, the Department continues to engage with all industry stakeholders. This includes potential financing partners such as the EU via Connecting Europe facility, the Irish Strategic Investment Fund and the European Investment Bank, looking at viable projects capable of generating a commercial return. A number of ports are, just one sentence, already working with their financial advisors to finalise detailed business cases that will determine their investment requirements and how best they can be met. And the Department has also engaged New Era to review ports plans and consider the availability of financing mechanisms to support the delivery of ports projects.
Thanks, Minister. Look, far be it from me now to be telling any deputy their job, but I will say this in relation to the expansion of Dublin Port. That's an absolute scandal, and I've been saying it for nigh on 8 years. Dublin Port is overdeveloped. The reconfiguring for Brexit made the port a total disaster from a movement perspective. And from the EPA's perspective, in relation to NOx emissions, it is already overdeveloped on the basis of expanding the most NOx emissions this country has and paying huge fines at European level every year. We are the only country in Europe, Minister, that is actually expanding an inner city port. Every other country is removing ports in situ of their main cities out around into the regions. And we have an opportunity to expand Rosslare Europort and develop it given it the strategic position it deserves in the country. It is now our most and only connected port directly to mainland Europe. And I'm asking that you would announce significant funding from the Irish Exchequer, giving them bang for their buck, not Brexit monies that came from Europe to do exactly what Europe wants, and that's put in a border post.
Thanks, Deputy. And relating to Dublin Port, obviously the specific plans there relate to the growth that will occur, notwithstanding the need to ensure that our regional ports are also developed, and it's striking the balance on that. There'll be obviously a review as part of the National Ports Policy as well, where we welcome your input. I know your experience as well prior to politics. But we are really ambitious for Rosslare. We've seen a transformation in the level of trade and movement of goods through Rosslare since Brexit, and we're also trying to enhance the potential for Rosslare in the southeast region in the context of offshore wind infrastructure. And that's why there are plans being progressed to develop the RE purpose-built quay and berth with up to 50 acres in RE quayside storage for the purpose of marshalling and assembly. And as I've said previously, this will require dredging of the channel to 9 to 11 metres. They are finalising their business case, which we have to receive before we address the question that you've set out. That is expected and is also expected to proceed through the consenting phase in late 23 to lodge a planning application in Rosslare in Q2 24 with a view to beginning construction in Q3 25.
And I don't mean to sound condescending. I do have expertise in the area for over 30 years. I'm going to say it again. The M50 is the most congested road this country has. Again, the European model is for an outer ring road to be built. Every city in Europe, not just capital cities, but every major city with dense population has an outer ring road, a relief road to what we call our M50. I leave home at 5 o'clock in the morning, Minister. At 5 o'clock in the morning, for 90 kilometres, that road is bumper to bumper with traffic, all converging on the M50 at a time, Deputy, when the boats come out or dock in Dublin Port and all of the commercial traffic enters the road as well. We do not need to develop Dublin Port further. We need to look at developing the regional ports with money that the Exchequer will then get value for money for. We need it from a competitive perspective. We can't have traffic sitting on the M50 further contaminating our air that we breathe with NOx emissions. We have to put the money in. We have all the plans in the world. I'm hearing about them, Minister, with all due respect, for years. The 50 acres will never be reclaimed unless the money goes in.
Well, I think it's not a case of either or, thankfully, because the economy is growing at pace. We have a requirement to develop our regional ports, as you've said, but we also have a requirement to deal with the level of trade that's occurring through Dublin as well. And when you look at the logistics pattern that we have and the level of trade and the level that how goods and services, our goods and materials are delivered within a very, very close to Dublin Port, a significant percentage are delivered there. So there's obviously going to be a demand within Dublin, but as you've said, we've seen the huge growth in Rosslare. We've very ambitious plans across a number of other regional ports in the east, southwest and west, and that's why we need to see their business plans, their business cases, and they're being finalised at different stages across different ports so that we can enhance the regional development of our ports. And we share your ambition for the regions, and offshore renewable energy will play a key part of that. We're engaging with the various units in the Department of Housing Local Government relating to MARA, trying to get the consent process advanced as well. And then it'll come to the question on finance will be clear when we've seen their business cases. And it's at that point that we'll be able to assess that.